joined today by Lesley-Anne Junner, who is Director of Finance and Corporate Services at Linstone Housing Association. So we're here as part of National Careers Week 2021, and we're going to have a little chat today with Lesley-Anne to find out a little bit more about her role, how she came to work in housing, and her experiences of being a member of the CIH. So hi Lesley-Anne.
Hi Laura.
Hi, so I'm just going to start here. I'd be really keen to find out a little bit more about how you came to work in the housing sector.
Okay, so I suppose sometimes, like many people, I fell into housing, which quite often happens. It's not something I'd ever identified as being on my career path. I want to end up working in housing. So my background is I'm a finance professional, so a trained chartered accountant, so quite a traditional route through the big four accountancy firm. And then I moved into the third sector when I had kids, so just more flexible working, and that really gave me an appetite for working in the third sector and being involved with the community. From there, I moved into the Scottish Federation of Housing Associations, and even up until that point, I didn't really know much about housing associations. I wasn't sure about the difference between council housing and social housing and registered landlords, etc. So I really had no knowledge. But then that was, I suppose, my first entry into the sector. And once I got to know the work the sector were doing, it really interested me, and I made a conscious decision to then actively move and look for a role within the housing sector, which led me to Linstone, which is a probably sized in the neighbouring local authority to the one I live in.
Okay, great. And can you tell me then a little bit more about your job at Linstone, what sort of responsibilities you have in your role there, sort of a little bit more about your team and a bit more about the Housing Association?
Yep. So Linstone is a community controlled housing association, which means we're based in our local community and we have tenant representatives on our board. So we have about 1,600 properties, and all within quite a small geographical area, which is great because it means we have a very local presence for our customers, so people can pop in and out of the office and get that support as and when they need it. In terms of my role, so quite often within associations, the finance role is rolled up with the wider office functions. So as well as being head of finance, I'm also head of IT and HR, so which is great. It gives a great variety to my role. So as much as I love being an accountant, it's quite boring at times. So the other aspects of the role make it really interesting. I have a real strong interest in leadership and people development. So the HR side of it is the thing I enjoy the most about my job, is working with the staff, doing team building events, finding ways to engage the wider staff team, and also IT. So we work with an IT specialist, and I've got IT people within my team, which is great. And in terms of the makeup, I've got a team of 21 at the moment. So but they're led by 3 managers below me, and then they lead their wider teams. And maybe slightly unusually at Linstone, we also have the income team that sits in with us, which are managing the arrears. So in lots of associations, that's a generic role within housing. But at Linstone, we made a decision to focus the arrears team specifically on supporting people to deal with their arrears and the debts that they have with the association. So I've also the income team, which I really enjoy, and has given me a really good insight into the more operational housing side of the sector.
Great. And in terms of the sort of corporate services side then, and the corporate services team, what sort of roles do they do? What would their kind of tasks be?
Again, it's probably the most varied within the organisation. So we have a finance team, so very dedicated, so people who are interested in finance, accounts, and they produce the accounts, monitor the budgets, check the banking, deal with money coming in from tenants, but also paying our large suppliers. We've got the IT function, so we have our IT manager and our IT officer who help us with, like everybody, our business is based around a big system that keeps everyone's information, and we need that information to do our job. So IT is really important. We also have the corporate services function itself, which help with all the administration. They help with the HR, so advertising jobs, doing the recruitment process, etc. As well as health and safety. So that's a very varied role, the specifically corporate services assistants and officers, just in terms of general office management. And I also lead on community engagement as well. So I have community development workers in our team who are the people who are out and about in the community working with the local residents and tenants about how we can add value and help them. And finally, the income officers and the income team who are there. And although it is a sort of debt chasing process, because ultimately as a business we need our money to come in, we come at it from a sort of supportive point of view. So we have welfare rights advisors who can help people to make sure they're getting all the benefits they can get. So it's a really you're still supporting and helping people, although it might ordinarily be seen as, oh, that's not a nice role to be in. It's a really supportive role in our organisation.
Okay,
so a wide variety there, hopefully.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah. So in terms of if people were sort of thinking about working in a corporate services role or in a finance team, what would you think might be the sort of knowledge they might need, or the skills or behaviours that they might need to do those sorts of jobs?
I mean, I think for me, I had a very traditional route into, I left school, I went to university, and I built my career up and entered the housing sector. But what I love about the sector is my predecessor started at Linstone as a YTS. And then went up and has left and became a chief executive. So I think it's one of the few sectors still available that you can come in with there's some excellent quality traineeships, modern apprenticeships, etc. So I think the route in, if you care about people and you're wanting to make a difference, and I think certainly corporate services, you need to wear lots of hats at times and be able to manage lots of different tasks and activities. But I think generally you could either go through the more traditional degree route, further education, but you can also have a really great career starting off, just getting in and getting experience in the housing sector. So
Great. Okay, so it sounds like lots of different ways to get into housing and come in and get involved. So just thinking a bit about coming back to CIH, and obviously we're the professional body for housing, and I know that you're a member with us, and you've become a chartered member with us through our executive route to chartered membership. I'd just be a bit interested to know sort of why you felt that was important for you, what you learned and what the process was to do that.
So I'm a chartered accountant, so this is my background is finance, so I am already affiliated to my professional body from what my core skill set is, which is finance, so that's then chartered accountants. And I recognise that having that chartered status it's important for career development. And it's also really important, I think, to be part of the sector and the sector body. So like ICAS and the Institute of Accountants who give me technical updates about the finance, that's what CIH offer, is that access to knowledge, to training, to peer support networks, etc. So I think that's really important if you're wanting to become a professional. So that you do have that chartered status. And I think it's great that CIH recognise that, although I'm not a housing professional because my qualification's not in housing, I've been in the sector for 7 or 8 years. I know the sector, and I bring with me skills from out with the sector, I suppose, that I can bring and add value to the wider sector and colleagues and peers around Scotland and the UK. And in terms of the process, it involved me preparing a presentation that I had to do. It was a peer review, which was really interesting. So I was there was a panel, but also 4 other people who were wanting, so we all had to peer review each other's presentations. And also take some quite challenging questions from the panel, just to see if they felt that we were ready to get to that chartered status.
Great. So is that something that you would recommend to other people who are maybe been working in housing for a while that aren't yet a chartered member?
I definitely think so. And when I started looking into it, so if you're a health and safety expert, or if you're an expert in finance or marketing, or there's something that maybe you don't traditionally see as housing, it's just understanding you have value to bring to the sector. So I think it's a really valuable thing, and I'd encourage more people to do it, just so that we can get a breadth of experience in the CIH community.
Yeah, great. Okay, so my last question today is just really anyone that is considering a career in housing, who's maybe been listening to this interview, or they haven't yet thought about housing, but they're now starting to think about it, what would you say to them about housing, about why they should come and work in the housing sector?
I think for me, the housing sector is, I think it's a sector that's going to be around for a long time. People are all going to need homes. And I think if COVID has taught us anything, it's about the importance of safe and affordable and warm homes. They really are the crux of, I think, society, making sure we have that, and being part of a service that is giving that to people it's a really great place to be. So you feel good about the work you're doing because you are making a difference in people's lives. I think there's lots of routes of entry, as I've said to you. If further education is not for people, there's a great way to try and get in through apprenticeships, training schemes, etc. We work with the local high school, so work experience. We take students in during October School Week, etc., to come in and see what it's like to work in the sector. They're not just office-based jobs, so some of them are, but some of them are out and about in the community. So again, you've got that variety. If you don't, I know a lot of people don't think when they're younger, I don't want to sit in an office all day, so you don't have to do that if you work in housing. And I suppose the final thing I would say is, if anyone was thinking about it, most people have a local housing association in their area, so reach out to them, express your interest, especially we would love younger people on our committee, or get involved through volunteering. Or so if you are interested, you can dip your toe in the water by offering to volunteer or finding other ways to be involved with your local housing association. Yeah,
great. No, that's a really good tip. Thank you. Well, that's the end of our short interview. So thank you again, Lesley-Anne, for your time today. I hope everyone that's watched this has found it interesting and a bit of an insight into finance and corporate services and housing in general. And that's all from us. So thanks again.
Thank you.